Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome, and thank you all for attending this historic day in education for South St. Paul Public Schools and Inver Hills Community College. I am Butch Manning, most of you know me. I'm the principal of your building here, and I'm going to serve as the MC for this ceremony today. And wow, this is unbelievable. I was fired up about this whole project. I was excited about today, but to see this number of people here, it is outstanding. And what's being offered is phenomenal. In a time of unbelievable change in education, the students of South St. Paul will be provided an unprecedented opportunity that very few students in the state of Minnesota will have. This partnership that we'll be talking about today will allow students to earn a high school diploma, an international baccalaureate diploma, and at the same time complete a 2-year or associate degree from Inver Hills Community College. The big thing is not ever having to pay for a college class. What a great opportunity that is. I would like to start today by thanking the leaders of Inver Hills Community College for acknowledging the rigor and the of our outstanding International Baccalaureate program that we have at South St. Paul, and realizing that together, South St. Paul Secondary Building and Inver Hills Community College could create something special to help our students be better prepared for the 21st century. A fact taken from the St. Paul Pioneer Press stated that by 2018, I'm gonna get my numbers right here, 70% of the jobs in Minnesota will require at least some level of post-secondary education. This program could accomplish this for many of our students without ever having to leave our grounds. This partnership will allow our students to experience the rigor and academic excellence of our International Baccalaureate Diploma Program and Inver Hills AA degree while being able to stay home at South St. Paul Secondary Building and enjoy their friends and activities that are part of the important process of graduating from high school. At this time, I would like to introduce to you Mr. Tim Wines, President of Inver Hills Community College, who will say a few words.
Hi. There you go. Thanks for coming out today. About a year ago, our system at Minnesota State College University System got a new chancellor. His name is Stephen Rosenstone. He came over from the U. And by the way, only in Minnesota would you say the U, and everyone instantly know what school you're talking about. But when he came over, he gave us permission to do things fast and to do things to extend an extraordinary education and extraordinary value to the community partners that we have. And for Inver Hills, South St. Paul is one of those partners. As Butch was talking, I was sitting there looking up the clocks that are in the cafeteria here to show Tahiti, Brazil, Morocco, Turkey, India, and China. And it occurred to me that when I was a kid, people used to say, eat your food. There are kids that are in China that are starving. And as Tom Friedman, the economist for the New York Times said a couple years ago, he says to his kids now, do your homework. There are kids in China doing theirs. The pace of education has picked up tremendously fast. The way that we go about educating and putting people in the workforce has changed dramatically. And I'm fortunate, Dr. Doug Binsfield, who has worked tirelessly for the college to get this arrangement set up. Both of us know that the students that graduate from Inver and graduate from South St. Paul face a completely different world of work than we did when we went into it. So your students have this opportunity, it's just fantastic. We're a huge fan of this high school, this school system, and the IB program has tremendous rigor and reputation. I couldn't help but notice as we were walking around before the ceremony started, beyond the athletic hall of fame, which is just incredible, there are names in there that I've heard, even though I'm not a Minnesota by birth, but to see the names move and some others in there that associate along with hockey and other sports of the state, but to also go across the hall and see the names of people that have graduated from the IB program and see getting longer and longer every year. That tells me that the academic part of South St. Paul is taken very seriously. And so because of that, this was a relatively easy thing to do. If we were at a university, we'd still be having the fourth committee meeting, the second committee, or the subcommittee to decide what date the table should meet. But here we were able to get things done within about 3 months. And it's a testament to Dr. Webb and to Butch and to Doug that this happened as fast as it could. And we're thrilled that we're able to institute this now so that your students can benefit from it. If it all goes well and all goes according to plan, the students that take advantage of this will essentially graduate with a 2-year degree without having paid any tuition. It'll be debt-free. And they can move on to a 4-year degree and move into the workforce, knowing that they don't have to look back and count the loans that they would have owed. So it's a tremendous, tremendous opportunity. And we know that the rigor that's offered here at South St. Paul matches what we would do on campus. And I would be really wrong if before I sit down I didn't mention that one of the people in this room that understands this from both sides is Leanne Schmidt, sitting back there in the pink, who is one of our outstanding counselors at Embry Hills College, and also the mother of a child here at South St. Paul. Cross country and hockey? Baseball, sorry about that. I almost had it. So we know, I'll find out if this works or not very quickly, because Leanne will let me know in no uncertain terms what's good and what's bad. And frankly, we expect that from all the parents in the room, the board members in the room, and the staff in the room. To the students here, I would say this: it may sound like a lot of work, but I've had a child that's gone through this, and believe me, it is worth it at the end to be able to look back and go, I got 2 years down, I just have 2 years to go, and I can get in the workforce and get my degree and get moving as fast as I need to. So all of you, thank you for being part of this and look forward to this relationship.
Thank you, President Wines. Now, another extremely important person who was involved in making this partnership come true, our own truly, Dr. David Webb, Superintendent of Schools of South St. Paul.
So Tim said it well, just the opportunities for our students that lie ahead of us in the next few years are outstanding. And we're just, more than anything, want to begin today with a couple of thank yous. Thank you to Tim and Doug just for your partnership with South St. Paul Schools. We've been working for several months now just to crosswalk all of our courses with their courses to make sure that our credits met all of their credits. Conrad and Jane were instrumental in getting all of the coursework their direction. And at the very first meeting, when we sat down last spring, and we had done the crosswalk, beginning with that crosswalk work, Doug leaned over and said, I think right now we're at 51 of 60 credits. So we'd have 9 to go for your kids to get an AA degree from Embry Hills. So Conrad lit up and Butch, and they drove this for the last couple of months. And then Doug, with all of the great faculty from Inver, had been meeting over the past several months to make sure that all of our proposals were met equally on their side as well. So thank you to all 4 of you and Jane for getting this going. The number of students and families that will be helped in ways that we don't even know yet will be truly amazing. It was so amazing that the Commissioner of Education and their publicist today grabbed the story and they put it on the front page of the state Minnesota Department of Education website. So in some of your free time later, you can drift there and see that they said this is exactly where we want to be going with the state. This is what the legislature has been asking for. And just again, thank you for your help in getting it done.
Thank you, Superintendent Webb. Now, the next two gentlemen that I'm going to introduce really did a ton of work. Without them, they doing the legwork for us, putting this together, it would have never came. The first person that I'm going to introduce is Conrad Anderson, and he is our International Baccalaureate Diploma Coordinator. And the second one is Dr. Doug Bensfield, who is the Dean of Humanities and Fine Arts at Inver Hills Community College. It was through their work as they took a look at our IB path and the AA path and said, how does it mesh? And then that's where we started working, and with their help, we got to where we are today. And I'm going to start by having Conrad take over first, and then Doug will tag in.
Good afternoon. It's always a good sign when I think I copied 20 handouts and had to run and grab some more. So I'm going to give you a little overview of the IB Diploma Program and what that entails. And then I think you'll see that after I get done doing that, I am been hearing from Dr. Binsfield that our IB Diploma Program and what they require for an AA degree did align relatively closely, and so that's why when President Wine says it was easy to kind of work through, they do meld pretty well together. I also posted a link of this a couple days ago on Facebook, and I'm pretty proud of my work on this. And I'm friends with a lot of, I've been teaching here forever, but I have a lot of former students on Facebook. I don't let them be friends until after they graduate, but after I posted this and I had all these diploma candidates just go nuts about this and good job, great work, and the one that really stuck to me, a student said, finally. The students that go through this IB Diploma Program know how rigorous it is, and it's just a great thing that we have a school like Inver Hills that's willing to give the students the credit that they deserve for that. Most of you in the audience have the handout about the IB program. The goal of the IB program is to provide students with the values and opportunities that will enable them to develop sound judgment, make wise choices, respect others in the global community. And ultimately, what IB wants to create are students that are well-rounded, and they create that through what we call the IB Learner Profile. And when students graduate with the IB Diploma, and I think with an Associate of Arts degree from Inver Hills, we want students that are inquirers, knowledgeable, they're thinkers, communicators, they're principled, open-minded, caring, risk-takers, balanced, and reflective. And those traits make up what an IB student is, and now a student that will be getting this a degree, Associate of Arts degree from Inver Hills. The handout that you have in front of you shows, in order for a student to get this AA degree, they will have to be a full IB diploma candidate. That's not easy, it's rigorous, and it's always been that way. And it does take a lot of work and effort. In order to get the IB diploma, a student needs to take 6 IB subjects over the course of 2 years. They come from Group 1, which is your mother tongue language, and in most cases of our students it's English. Group 2, which is either a second language, so world language such as French or Spanish. Group 3 are what we use, that's called individuals and societies, but that's your humanities or social studies and psychology. Group 4 are your experimental sciences, biology and chemistry. Group 5, we have 3 different tracks of math, from math studies, which is more of a humanities-based math, to calculus, and we go all the way to Calc 2. And then we have the arts, which would be visual arts, and we also offer, starting this year, we offer music as well. Starting last year, we offered music. So over 2 years, a student will take 6 exams over those 2 years, some in their junior year, some in their senior year, and they will get a score from 1 to 7 on their coursework. An exam entails usually taking 2 or 3 exams and then doing something internally in the class, and all that is brought together to give a final composite score from 1 to 7. To get the IB diploma, students need to get 20, there are all little kind of certain rules, but the basic rule is you need 24 points, an average of 4 on your 6 exams. In order, now, where there will be some differences, we can get some questions and answers later. In order to get college credit, you need at least a 4 on all of your IB exams. If you don't get a 4, you can still get the IB diploma. You could get a 3 in one subject and a 5 in another, and it averages out to 4. But in order to get the Inver Hills credit, you would need a 4. And there's still some ways to do that, even if students don't get the score that they want. They could, and we'll talk about that later. In addition to, and this is the part that Inver Hills really started to give us some credit for that a lot of colleges and universities don't. But if you look at that handout, in the center of that hexagon, which make up the 6 subjects, there are 3 other requirements that IB diploma candidates have to complete to be eligible for the IB diploma. One is they write a 4,000-word research paper on a subject of their choice, and they do that on their own. Students that are IB diploma candidates right now are working on that this summer, and they bring their first draft to school their senior year. They don't get any credit for that otherwise, but now it works in as part of the component that Inver Hills looks at that and sees the value of a student that can complete a 4,000-word research paper. Students also have to take a course called Theory of Knowledge, which is a kind of a thinking about thinking course, like a bit like philosophy, that gets students to understand kind of the ways of knowing and the ways of looking at different perspectives. And it's a 2-trimester course. They take 1 trimester their junior year and 1 trimester their senior year. And then finally they complete a CAST requirement. CAST stands for Creativity, Action, and Service. And IB wants to see students that are well-rounded, not just bookworms. And so they want students to develop the right side of the brain, the creative side. They want to see students sweat. That's the active part. And they want to see students give back to their community, and that's the service piece. And so that usually comes out to about 100, they don't like hours, and they work more on outcomes. There's 8 outcomes that they need over 2 years, but it's about 150 hours over 2 years of creativity, action, and service hours. A lot of students that participate in theater, debate, and sports are already getting those things, but then there's other service components that they probably are doing as well that they have to just reflect on and that sort of thing. We work with the students closely to help design that program. We have the CAS coordinator, Ms. Katie Ellis, who's an IB science teacher here at South St. Paul that works individually with each student on a plan for that. So that's a pretty rigorous program, and as you can see, that's an important element to this. Now, students have always been able to get college credit for their scores. And so if a student were to take just IB history and they got a 5, score of 1 to 7 on that transcript goes to their college or university, and they could register and work with the registrar and get credits for that. And that still is going to be the case as well. What's nice about this, though, is now we're working with Inver Hills, that college credit issue. Some students were hesitant to doing the full IB program before because look at all this work. I've heard nightmares about how colleges are giving credit for IB or not giving credit for IB. Now it doesn't matter. If you get the scores of 4 or higher and you get that IB diploma, those translate into college class credit that they'll send your AA degree to colleges and universities to get your credits and not necessarily the IB diploma. And that's the difference. And that's where the negotiating doesn't happen. I mean, there'll still be negotiating when you go on transfer, but there'll be negotiating from college credit to college credit, which will make this the important piece for our students. That's way too much that I just gave you. But I want to introduce then Dr. Binsfield, and he'll talk more of this from the Inver Hills perspective, and then we'll be available, we'll be answering some questions a little bit later.
Trying to keep it brief. From the Inver Hills perspective, there were 3 or 4 really driving forces that really helped us to really enact this partnership. First of all was the absolute rigor that we saw in the IB curriculum. Not only is it clear that it's very well established at this school, but even in our own course catalog, we acknowledge that by looking at certain IB courses and saying if you get a score of 4 to 7, we're going to accept it. So we basically went through all of the classes that you offer in your individual tracks for IB, and we were able to kind of walk those straight over and say, straight equivalency, it makes complete sense. After that, we were then able to take a step back and say, what else do we need to meet our competencies? Now, we're held to the Minnesota Transfer Curriculum for that general education requirement, and then we have to get some electives in there to get up to 60 credits to get to that AA degree. Well, by the nature of a lot of the IB coursework that you take, what ends up happening is you get more than the basic credits. For example, in history, if you take history HL, it actually equates straight out to 2 history classes for 8 credits on our campus. So we're able to take the math and just do a pretty straight line. The other thing that is a little more difficult and presented a challenge to us was looking at those extra components, things that aren't necessarily classes per se in the IB curriculum. The theory of knowledge, which is a class, but it isn't translated out in the catalog, the extended essay, and then that CAS, the Community Action Service Project. Now, what we had our faculty do was carefully look at what was happening and what came about as a result of the activities involved with those 3 different service projects. And we were able to say, you know what, based on the learning that they're demonstrating, the outcomes that they're achieving, we can see that in certain other areas of our curriculum for the AA degree, that it's going to be a really easy crosswalk, and that we'll be able to accept those things for what we call prior learning assessment. So by articulating those things out, by identifying that the rigor was strong, by working with our faculty to ensure that they were confident and what we're working on is quality, we're able to say that pretty confidently we'll be able to get you through this and have that AA degree and still maintain the rigor and the integrity of our curriculum by the time you're done with high school. Okay? I promise I'd keep it short because I think your questions are probably going to be the more important sorts of things that we can address. So Conrad, if you want to join me, I think this is where we move into that question and answer period.
Just quickly, if anybody has a question, we'd like you to go up to the mic right here in front so that we can get this, and just give your name, ask the question, and we'll do the best we can to answer them for you.
And while you're getting over your bashfulness and coming up to the microphone, I thought of some questions you might want to ask, so I'll ask them and answer them, okay? Or if Doug can too. Who can take advantage of this? All right, so it is a 2-year program, and Inver Hills needs to oversee both years of the program. So it is our students that are currently juniors in the classes that follow them. So unfortunately, 12th grade IB diploma candidates would not be able to take advantage of this because Inver Hills wouldn't oversee both years of the program. So, and by eligible for the program means that they need to be in line to take the right math course and that sort of thing. So, and those are best found out by scheduling an appointment with myself or with one of the assistant principals here at South St. Paul High School, and we can help you out. But our program is not open, and we don't require certain testing or anything else to get into it. If students are on track as far in terms of their coursework, any student can get in. How this changed my students' schedule? That might be another question you might want to ask. There will be some additional requirements that students beyond just the IB diploma requirements here at South St. Paul might be. For example, a student that would take both chemistry and biology instead of art, because you can do that with IB, they will have to maybe take we're still working out some of the details, but they'll have to take a 1-trimester psychology course for humanities, because there are some electives they have open in their junior and senior year. Usually in the 11th and 12th grade, they don't take a FIED or health class. They'll have to take a 1-trimester FIED and health class to get the college equivalent that Inver Hills requires. So we're working on how to do that during the school day, during their senior year, 0 hour. There are all kinds of options that we're working through. And so there might be a few other things like that Doug and I will be working on the details over in the next few weeks, and so that our students know exactly what they will have to do. But for the most part, they'll be right here taking classes that they would have usually been taking. What if a student doesn't get the IB diploma? We had 31 students get a try for it this year. 19 of them got it. 5 of them had enough points but missed because they missed part of the other IB requirements. For example, one student had enough points but ended up getting a 2 on a higher level exam. They don't give the IB diploma for that. What will allow our students to do now is that they can take, if they graduate, they could go to their college or university of their choice, take that class to make up for the test that they didn't do well on, transfer that credit back to Inver Hills, if I'm saying this right, and then they will get their AA degree. So that they have the ability to make up for some of those lower scores that they might have gotten on their test. So that's a piece that I learned yesterday that actually makes us even better for our students, so that students can actually, do their best, and if it doesn't quite work out, they can still make up those components. How many credits will students get? 60 credits, college credits is what they get when all is said and done. And then I do want to say that this does put a lot of onus on the students, though, because it is a rigorous program. It isn't just given to you; you have to earn it. And so studying and putting in the time and effort needed to get the grades is an important lesson. Some students don't learn until college, but now they'll be able to participate that in high school. So those are a few of the questions I thought you might have, if you have others.
Hi, good afternoon. I just have a question. There is no placement score or anything to qualify. No active place, so you don't have to take it.
No, is really the only part that becomes complicated is the tracking in math and where they are. So, and that's about the only thing that can kind of hold a student up from getting it, but we don't have any other tests that's required to get into the IB program.
Great, thank you.
I'll follow up on that a little bit. The reason that the active placer wouldn't necessarily be required is because the IB math course itself already counts for direct credits on our campus, so it wouldn't necessarily be a prerequisite for that reason.
I'm sure somebody has just something burning inside they want to ask.
Eventually be here after.
Okay. We will be around later to ask any questions. So then in closing, I just wanted to mention a few things. When we hustled to try to get this all together and to be able to have this presentation and get the information out to the newspapers and everything else, in our wildest dreams, when we thought about this, we said, how many people? And we were looking around and we were saying, well, I've got 10 fingers, that would be pretty good, and that may be pushing it. We have 60 people here today. That is phenomenal. It says a little bit about our community. I want to talk one last thing. Conrad kept saying this program is rigorous. A few years ago, in South St. Paul, we tackled a project and we said, we're going to bring the International Baccalaureate program to South St. Paul K-12. People questioned where we'd be at and whether or not we could do that. We did it. We knew that our kids were not afraid of rigor. This is South St. Paul. We are the Packers. We have never backed down from rigor. This is just kind of like the frosting on the cake to get our K-12 IB program up and running where we want it, and now to add 60 college credits to it while you remain here as a Packer is phenomenal. Thank you all for coming. Any questions, we'll be more than happy to answer.